You're listening to The Flickcast, a podcast about stuff nerds love. I am Chris Ulrich, and with me, of course, my co-host, Joe Dilworth. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Chris. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. It's kind of you to inquire as to my well-being, and I appreciate you.
I'm mildly concerned about that on a regular basis.
Mildly concerned. That's sweet.
Yes.
I absolutely believe that that's true.
It is very, there are times during the day where I sit there and go, I wonder
if Chris is okay.
Seeing Chris online, I wonder if he's okay.
I wonder if he's okay. Yeah, what's he doing right now? Huh.
He's not ranting about something on Facebook. I hope he's all right.
I don't rant. Am I a ranter? I don't think so.
No.
I occasionally get on my soapbox on Twitter, but not even much on there because honestly, it is kind of an echo chamber in a way because most of the people that follow me are probably they think similarly to me, I would imagine.
Yes.
So me saying you should do this is like, well, no shit, we're already doing that. So why bother?
I think mostly it's like, well, I haven't seen Chris on Facebook for a while. He must be doing really good and actually, getting out and doing things. So it's right. Like the opposite would be like, wow, he's really ranting about stuff on Facebook. I wonder if he's okay.
Exactly. If you haven't heard from me in a while, then everything's fine.
Right. Exactly.
I'm not upset about anything. Things are great. Things are great. So on this episode of the Flickcast, we're going to discuss the new Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer. Very exciting. The first trailer for Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, and perhaps a little Picard and a little Discovery, and a little Discovery. Star Trek Discovery, and whatever else we can fit in. We'll also have picks, of course.
Got a good one this week.
Depends on how the episode's going. We may have to go to Picard next week or go to Discovery next week. But there's a lot of stuff happening in the Star Trek world. I'm very excited about the new show coming out in May.
Yes.
But let's talk about Obi-Wan first, because my feeling is that we're both going to be similarly opinionated about Obi-Wan. So would you like to tell me what you thought of the trailer?
I think we discussed before that originally I was like, do we need an Obi-Wan show with him on Tatooine? I guess. And, the more I heard about it, I was like, this might be pretty good. I am definitely sold after watching that trailer.
Right.
That was just great. And, they're not even like going to tease us or let rumors fly. They just flat out showed us young Luke in the trailer.
Yeah.
And, creeper Obi-Wan, watching him through binoculars.
Yeah, that's not weird. I'm sorry. He's cleverly disguised as Ben Kenobi at this point. So. That's right. No one will put two and two together. So
I get, maybe it's a thing in the Star Wars universe that last names are just commonplace because, he changed to Ben Kenobi and they didn't even bother changing Luke's name at all.
Well, yeah. So, if they're going to give him to Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, wouldn't they change his name to like Luke Lars or something like that? Just because?
Right, because they changed Leia's name.
Right, exactly. They changed Leia's name. Maybe my closet theory or pocket theory, whatever you want to call it, is that Luke was like the diversion because they knew there was another all this time and they had Leia like hidden. And so everyone's going to focus their attention on Luke. And so it's fine. Yoda's like, yeah, we got another one. We're fine. So
yeah, but that might hold water if they were like training her all this time.
Yeah.
And they were just like, oh, we'll just let Luke live on this backwater planet. And if he gets off, no big deal because we've got the one we're really training in reserve.
Right, but we don't know that Luke would have been trained or not trained because he happened to find Ben or Ben happened to find him, right?
Well, that's true.
And save him because that wizard's just a crazy old man. So they're trying. Because they got the message, of course, and so he tried to look for Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's like, Obi-Wan, who's that, right? So they're off in the desert looking for him, and he's going to be killed by the Tuskens, and then Obi-Wan saves him. But it's not because he wants to train. It's like, well, now we're here. I might as well. And don't point that at your face, kid. So
yeah, exactly. Don't do that.
Oh my God, that could the whole thing.
Well, there we go.
So
call up Leia.
You're young and stupid, apparently. So
yeah. Well, but here's okay. So we're really going to dig into it now. But here's my problem with that. Is if Luke was like always going to be the one, and if there's Leia, they in the prequels they make a big emphasis of you can only be a truly strong Jedi if you train from being a kid. So why would they not secretly? Well, maybe we'll get a Yoda series where he secretly trained Leia as a young kid. I don't know, but
right.
Why would you not hide them, yes, but then also train them in the ways of the. I don't know. Maybe that would put a bigger target on them. Yeah, well, maybe that would put a target on them because they're force sensitive.
Well, let's think about it. At the end, I mean, even Obi-Wan says it in this trailer. He's like, "The war's over. We lost." It's like they have no plan. The plan is let's fucking get these kids out of here as quick as possible. So I don't know that they had any ideas. Obi-Wan, you go to Tatooine. Also, because we have all these sets left over from previous shows, so we can go back to Tatooine. No problem. Why? Just keep an eye on him in case. But you're right. It's like we have to train these younglings in the ways of the Force. And Luke was just was he just like super Force sensitive? I don't know. I mean, he does go train with Yoda eventually, but when he's an adult, right? So
for like 5 minutes, and then he's able to fight Darth Vader. I'm like, wait, what?
We don't know how long that really is, right? Because
they call Rey a Mary Sue, but I think Luke
is more of a Mary Sue. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, he's a naturally gifted Force adept. I mean, and for someone who never had any training, I guess. Although they try to retcon that a little bit with Luke training Leia at one point, right? In one of the newer movies. So that explains why Leia had Force powers in the one where she flies through space without dying. But yeah, I guess the logic is it comes back to from a certain point of view, it's all whatever. So
yeah. Well, so the other thing I want to know too, and now I'm just nitpicking, is how in 19 years did Obi-Wan go from looking like Ewan McGregor to Alec Guinness? Because that's a lot of aging in 19 years.
Well, you don't know what happened.
Same thing with Uncle Owen too. He ages dramatically in 19 years, but
they've seen some shit, man. I mean, I like how they're bringing back Taron Egerton to be Owen too. That's like, why would you can bring back all the people? That's amazing. So obviously Owen is going to have more of a part in this because there's even a scene where he's there.
Yes,
when the Inquisitors are coming, which is also pretty cool that the Inquisitors are there to look for Jedi. I think that's pretty neat, and it makes sense because who's gonna be the antagonist? The guys who are hunting the Jedi. What a shock! So that's pretty cool.
Well, Darth Vader plays a part somehow because Hayden Christensen is in this too. So,
but is it just going to be him like putting on the helmet one morning, like in Empire?
Well,
like, oh, there's my head.
Or I mean, that's what I'm kind of wondering. Is it him completely in the Darth Vader suit? And if that's the case, especially if you're going to get James Earl Jones to do the voice, why did you need Hayden Christensen? Or is he going to appear in like a hallucination or multiple versions maybe somehow? I don't know.
It's got to be. We don't have the excuse like it's a multiverse. We don't have that excuse right now. So,
right.
Or is it?
Well, no. I mean, he does appear in Darth Vader in the armor, but maybe like maybe Obi-Wan while he's in the desert has internal monologue and visualizes Hayden. Is
there going to be a scene where a lizard goes up his nose? Because then I don't know if I'm going to watch the show.
Well, maybe. I mean, apparently there's hallucinogenic lizards out there on Tatooine, so you never know.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, it's there has to be. There's no reason to have Hayden Christensen unless you're going to show him. So either he's going to be totally made up and scarred and do a whole soliloquy about, I can I can live in this oxygen tent long enough to have a speech, or he's gonna at some point when he's fighting Obi-Wan. In their big fight, he's going to take his mask off and he's going to say, "Look what you've done to me," or whatever.
Right, right.
It's like, I have the high ground now, you bastard, and they're not going to fight.
It's my turn now.
There's got to be
there's no lava around. Damn it.
There's got to be a high ground joke in this show somewhere.
Yeah.
Or a place without handrails, one or the other, or both.
Probably both.
Probably both. So, I mean, it's. But you're right, though. What did happen to Obi-Wan in 19 years? Man, he looks pretty rough in the movie. But
right,
I think we're just gonna have to. You have to suspend your disbelief. I guess it's still a show about space wizards and laser swords. So just.
Oh yeah, no. I mean that's totally nitpicking, and that's just like
no, but it's legit. I mean,
low hanging fruit of nitpicking actually too. But
it's legit. I mean, at least with Picard, they addressed why everyone, John Delancey looks older because he just changed, and why Guinan looks older, and so they addressed that kind of thing. Nerds are going to nerd, and so in this thing, I'm sure they're just Obi-Wan lives in the desert for 19 years and it aged you because he's not wearing sunscreen, obviously. And so wears sunscreen, kids.
Right.
And so he ends up looking older. Hello there. And his voice changes and, he looks like a totally different person because he is a totally different person. I don't know if you realize that, but it's not a young Alec Guinness, I'm afraid. So,
oh, wow.
I know. Weird, right?
They didn't de-age him? They didn't resurrect him and de-age him with computers? Wow.
No. I wonder if Alec Guinness were alive, I wonder if they would try to de-age him like that. They probably would, maybe. I don't know. I mean, he wasn't exactly spry for the lightsaber duels in Star Wars. So,
those were. That was a dynamic fight between him and Darth Vader in the first one.
He basically stood there. Yeah. Well.
Ching, ching, ching. I wonder if they made the noise while they're doing it. Ching.
Well,
ching,
in when they were filming Star Wars, it was basically they had wooden sticks, right, with like reflective tape on them or something. I can't remember.
Yeah,
we've all seen the behind the scenes of the making of Star Wars kind of shit, but yeah, so they probably couldn't even touch them together because they go clack, clack, clack.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't
it's
know.
Like, no, can you not do that so hard because we can't edit the clack out.
Only a master of evil does, So. But you know what, man? I didn't care. It was fucking awesome when I was a kid. So.
I don't care either about the aging thing, honestly. No. I'm excited for Obi-Wan. I think it looks like a really fun show.
Yeah, they managed to invoke like a lot of feelings, especially like Duel of the Fates. That was pretty cool. So I wonder if we'll see. Darth Maul because he's alive in this timeline. If you believe Solo is canon, then he's
he's still alive.
He's alive, and so he could come back, and that would be interesting. With the little spider legs running around.
There was some rumor that what's her name is Kira from the Solo movie was going to show up in Obi-Wan as well because in the comics, which are canon now, she's still alive in the time of Empire Strikes Back, and she's running her own organization, Crimson Dawn or something like that. Right. So she theoretically could show up here, and that could. And she was, and at the end of Solo, she was going to work for Darth Maul. So
right, no, but she's like the number 2, right, for Crimson Dawn. So, or if that's what it's
called. And that would make sense for Obi-Wan if they brought in Darth Maul too, because
Maul
killed his master, and he thought he killed Maul, and he's fought him again in Clone Wars or Rebels or whatever. So
Well, also, I mean, I'm wondering because they keep playing that scene where Yoda and Obi-Wan are talking about Qui-Gon. It's like, is Qui-Gon going to come back too? I don't know. As a Force ghost,
he could show up too. Yeah.
Liam Neeson will show up and say, "Hello, Obi-Wan. You have a particular set of skills."
Obi-Wan and Yoda have to learn about the whole absorbing into the Force and Force ghosting stuff eventually, because they seem to kind of know about it. Right. Fairly readily by the time of Empire, so in the first Star Wars movie. So,
Obi-Wan must know about it because that's what he does, right? So
if Qui-Gon visits him, it'd be like, dude, you're looking a little blue there. What's going on? Oh, I'm not really here.
I'm a Force ghost. Oh no! Ooh, yes. He visits him at night, right? You've been terrible. Here's the things you must do.
Yeah, exactly.
And then someone pulls off his mask, and it's really like Darth Maul. I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you, damn kids, right?
Yeah, it's like, damn it, I almost got him.
Scooby-Doo this shit, man. So
absolutely.
I don't know why. Can no one say shit in a trailer? It's like everyone says shit. It's like, we got to Scooby-Doo this crap. It's like, come on. We know he didn't say crap.
Right.
Anyway, whatever. That's a totally different story. But
and I think it's worth noting that Kathleen Kennedy, who I don't know how many times she was fired this week, but she's very excited too about the Obi-Wan show. She was talking about we did a lot of rewrites, and we had to because we worked with Ewan to make sure the story was right and all this kind of stuff. Because it was going to be a movie at one point, right?
Yes, it was. It was a movie, but it fell apart, unfortunately.
But if she's excited about it, then it's going to be terrible, and she's probably going to get fired because of it.
I don't know that. I don't really, honestly, her opinion, it doesn't mean as much to me as it does to other people's opinions. Although really no opinions at this point are valid because what are they going to say? Oh, this is a piece of shit, So I don't, exactly. You shouldn't watch this. It's terrible. They also said nice things about Book of Boba Fett too, which was, let's be honest, not as good as it could have been. That's generous. But I think that at least they know how to cut a trailer, and Ewan McGregor can actually do scenes where he acts. You don't have to cut. Right. You don't have to cut away from him for 2 episodes to do whatever. There's an interesting point in the trailer where it almost looks like Tamura Morrison's in the trailer. Did you notice that?
Really?
Yeah,
no.
and like you can see the shape of his head. And some people have been speculating because it could be somebody else. It could be Rex. It could be a lot of different people. It could be other clone troopers. Because this basically starts right after Order 6666666, and so I don't know. That's a lot of sixes, but and so Obi-Wan flees to Tatooine with the kid, I should say, and says, "Here, take this baby. Who are you? I don't know. Just take this baby.
Here, you get this kid. I'm going to go hang out in the desert.
Go hang out in the desert and watch you guys from a distance, because that's fine, right?"
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to watch you through binoculars anytime I want to. You'll never know.
Another question that always confounded me. It's like, why would he be so far away? Why not just take Luke and keep Luke with you? If you want him to be safe, why give him to a family? If you're not going to change his name or do anything, it's like, what's the point of trying to integrate him into a regular life? Because Obi-Wan is got shit to do.
Yeah, I mean, because... if someone else is watching, exactly. If someone else is watching him, who knows where he's going to be at any given time? How are you going to keep your eye on him? He should have just moved in. Hey, I got this kid. I need a place to stay. It could have been like an Odd Couple style.
That's right.
Show.
I'm sorry.
So Beru has left Owen for it was during the time where they were separated, and Obi-Wan doesn't have anyone, so it's like an Odd Couple style Star Wars show.
That is great show.
But they have a kid. They have a kid.
It's like 2 Minute a Baby. Come on.
Yes. Yeah. It'll be a hybrid show.
Dude, I love that idea. Why didn't they do that? That's awesome. See, or Owen's like, you know what, Beru? I got to tell you the truth. I'm gay. And Ben is my lover, and this is our love child, Luke Kenobi. No, I don't know.
Yeah,
Luke Beru. No, wait, Luke Lars. That's it. Luke Lars. Maybe they didn't do Luke Lars because that sounds stupid. I don't know.
Yeah, they're like, no, that doesn't. It's too much like Clark Kent.
Well, it's just one of those mini indicators that this was not. What do we do in the future when we have to make 40 of these things? There, it's like, I'm happy to get one movie made, and will it be a success? Because everyone else thought it was a stupid idea. This one guy at Fox thought it was okay, so we're making this movie. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe we'll never get a sequel. What difference does it make? So that's why you get a victory at the end of Star Wars. They blow up the Death Star. Movie over. You could have never made another one. Then no one would have had to question anything.
Yeah.
It's now only after 100 years of Star Wars that people are nitpicking more, or pulling apart the quote unquote logic of Star Wars, which is not really logic at all. But anyway.
But really, you don't, like you said earlier, you can hand wave all of it away with the line from a certain point of view. I mean, we set that precedent in the very first movie anyway. So things aren't always what you think and always as they seem. And the prequels prove that, right? So I think it's and it is, as I've always said, it's space fantasy. It's not science fiction, and it's a fairy tale basically. So it's kind of like any oral story you tell, any kind of fairy tale over the years. Elements change, and
that's exactly right.
So I do nitpick, but mostly joking, because some people get really fucking serious about it on the internet. But
they do.
I'm more of I don't really care, because I like these stories. I mean, I still like Splinter of the Mind's Eye, and I think we've talked about that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't fit in at all with continuity, but I still read it.
But at the time,
it's another Star Wars story.
At the time, it was absolutely continuity, because that was it, right? That was
that was going to be the sequel, and it was like, well, we're not sure we're going to make it, so let's do it as a book,
right?
And
exactly. But you have to think, though, that was that was George's plan for Luke and Leia. They were not going to be siblings. They were going to be lovers, right? They were going to get it on. And so, and Han doesn't even appear in this second book in the Splinter of the Mind's Eye at all, right? It's like,
Right.
So that was his intent. So his intent was not to, necessarily go the way he ended up going. But you're right.
Yeah, and even the Marvel Star Wars comics and whatever novels are considered legacy and non-canon, there are more Star Wars stories. I don't care. It's like it's like telling more, Hansel and Gretel stories. It doesn't matter to me that Luke said in this one that he doesn't like the color blue, but then he makes a blue uniform later in this other thing. So, that's horrible. I don't really care. And the aging thing doesn't really matter to me. It's just fun Star Wars stories.
Exactly.
That's what I'm in for.
The other out is not just from a certain point of view. It's like you said, it's from a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. This is just shit we heard. We don't know if this is true.
Right.
And it's exactly. Everyone in this show, in these stories, are unreliable narrators, right? Because it's a telling of a tale.
Yes.
From the Journal of the Wills or whatever it was. And so
exactly.
It's like historical. It's 1,000 years ago. We don't know what happened. This is kind of what we heard. And, tales get changed and whatever. So that's your out for a lot of it. And and whatever your point of view is, like Obi-Wan says. But, you and I can agree to that and accept it. But, and we do poke fun at Star Wars and other things because
of course,
it's interesting. And it's interesting to think about these things. But, like you said, in the end, it's just you have to accept it. It's fantasy, and not everything is going to get tied up neatly in a bow. Although there are some really blatant things that stand out, and plus, when you go back and try to change things, that's actually more annoying to make things more to fit in with the future narrative. It's like just leave it. You don't have to fix it. Just everyone knows what happened. You're not going to fool anybody. Oh, this is the version where this happens. Like, no, it already happened a different way. So what difference does it make? Let it go.
I think if you're accepting that Luke and Leia were siblings the whole time and you're going to ignore the fact they made out, then I think at that point you got to be.
But who hasn't wanted to make out with their sister? Come on, yeah.
It's like you can accept that, but the aging thing over 19 years, when if you want to get into it, it's like, well, we don't know their biology. Maybe that's the way they age. Who knows? But I mean, and right there's your out. But at the same time, I'm like, if you can accept the Luke and Leia thing, then you really can't say they've ruined the franchise and I'm never watching any more over the aging thing. I'm sorry. I mean, at that point, it's like any continuity errors are like, it's built into the franchise. I mean, come on.
Well, the thing is too that Ewan McGregor is not that much different. Like in 19 years, he'll be kind of the same age Alec Guinness was. So it's not like people just look better now. Alec Guinness had a harder life. He was
they do have him aged a little bit in the trailer too. I noticed
they do, yeah. And I mean, I'm sure that's just makeup, but I mean, he's a healthy, man of the 2000s. He takes care of himself, and people eat better and they have better, whatever. And so it's like, of course, he looks different. I mean, you look at people from the 70s, everyone looked kind of like shit in a way. I mean, people didn't take care of themselves as well as they do now. They had better,
They didn't have rigorous makeup and hair on.
Well, that too,
and it seemed like back then.
It's also like growing up in England in the 30s and 40s, like Alec Guinness did. He didn't have like dental care, and he didn't have like all the advantages that someone would have now. I mean, they have dental care. I'm not trying to be a dick, but it's just more nutrition, more everything. It's just in a lot of ways, so it makes sense. And he was more of an old school theater actor. He didn't, he probably didn't worry so much about his appearance. He was more of a character actor. Yeah. Maybe he just this is a stupid movie and I'm just doing this for money and I don't give a fuck what I look like. I'm supposed to be a wise old, whatever. And so I'm just going to go whatever. I mean, and maybe there was a discussion with him and George about what Obi-Wan should look like. But again, it was 1976. People all looked terrible in 1976.
Exactly.
Or 75, whenever they first talked about Star Wars. So, the bottom line is, people, just remember, this was not ever really meant to be more than one movie, and it just was dumb luck in a way, and a huge amount of money that made it have more than. And that's why we're talking about it now. It was very popular.
And as importantly as that, this is just made up stuff. It's not a documentary. It's not real life. It's just it's fiction. It's a story. It's
right. But I don't mind. That's one thing I like about Marvel is they do take this continuity stuff more seriously, I think, and they do try to not make stupid mistakes, although they do make some mistakes, especially with like what year shit's taking place, like the whole thing in which I don't remember.
It's always 10. It all started sliding scale of 10 years ago.
Right. So. Well, it's like the one where Toombs is there cleaning up after the Battle of New York, and then it's like 5 years later. But then that means this other movie takes place 2 years after that, and then also Stan Lee's there, but he's talking about playing a character like a FedEx guy that he never played until later, and There's all these like,
right.
There's things like that. The problem is that you get into a situation where movies, especially after the pandemic, movies got switched around. Like Black Widow was supposed to come out sooner, and this, all this kind of shit. And so
this is why I don't think that movies and comics or any fictional thing should I guess kowtow to the most stringent fans and attempt to explain things and put things into a specific timeline, because it's like, it doesn't, to the overall story and to 80% of the people experiencing it, they don't care. And so, I mean, there isn't, I would wager that most of the audience that watched that were like, oh yeah, 6 years ago. Okay, cool. So we know when this takes place. And that was like, even if they gave it that amount of thought, but then there's going to be people doing diatribes on the internet because, oh, now this has screwed everything up. Nobody cares. So I don't, that's why I don't like trying to, when in the narrative, they try to explain stuff. I mean, I guess it's fine with, Picard, where, they took 2 seconds to show why Q looks different, and that's fine. And one line from Guinan, that's fine. But, saying, oh, well, here's when it takes place, and we're going to say that, oh, remember back 5 years ago. You don't need to do that, and I wish they wouldn't. So same thing with Star Wars. It's like, people are like, oh, they should say something in... at the end of Kenobi to explain why he's like, no, they shouldn't. Who cares? Nobody cares, really. Honestly, I'm telling you, most of the people watching this, 90% probably watching this, aren't going to care.
His back to tank gets broken or something.
Yeah, so I'm like, all the nitpicking stuff, I'm like, I get it, and I make fun of it, and it's like, yeah, I can see that, but I don't. To me, it only makes it worse if you try to explain it, because the explanation isn't going to fit with everyone that's pissed off about it.
It's like time travel. How does time travel work, right? So
yeah,
no, you're right, and that was sort of blatant in No Way Home too, with Spider-Man, where they clearly added stuff to cover up like posters that had dates on them. They CG'd in things because the timeline doesn't work exactly, but they do that now, and I wonder if in some way a lot of that is led by the fact that people have nitpicked things like Star Wars so much about times and how things continuity works and blah blah blah, and they're more cognizant of that because, like it or not, nerds online have a much bigger influence on things than they used to, and studios know that's their bread and butter, and those are the people that are going to talk about their movies and whatever. So I think some of it is a reaction to that they have to kind of address that
maybe,
more.
But
and even though mistakes happen, or even though you can't have a sprawling like epic of 10-ish movies or 10-ish years, and all the movies are going to fit together. There's going to be scenes that don't make sense, like when Thor takes a bath in that pond with Selvig. It's like, what? Why is he even there? That doesn't even pay off. He gets a flash. The only thing that does pay off actually is that he sees a flashback or a vision of Captain America with Peggy, which I thought was interesting. But I can't imagine they were thinking about that. 10 years later, that Cap is going to whatever. But then,
he sees everybody dying too in Asgard, so that could be
that could be a Ragnarok flash or whatever premonition, but because they do all die. Most of them, But there's like things like that don't make sense. Or why was Cap just sitting there the whole time on the bench, or how does he get there? Because that's different than they just explain time travel. Because did he start a branch timeline by changing something? Because Captain America should have come back, and he didn't come back, so now that's a different timeline. Just like the Supreme Sorcerer says, or Sorcerer Supreme says, I want to say Supreme Pizza. I don't know why. Says it's like, well, if you do this, that creates a branch timeline, and it goes off. Tilda Swinton, trying to explain time travel, which I appreciate. But
that's why
you can't think about it too much, because it's a fucking comic book movie or it's a space movie. You can't think about it too much. You can't.
That's why I'm saying, and many comic book writers and other writers too have said that we try to adhere to continuity and canon, but at the end of the day, we're not going to let it stand in the way, or the explanation of it stand in the way of telling a good story, right?
Well, they got to serve. It's got to serve the story. Yeah, if it has to be.
Like you said about Cap, was he sitting on the bench all the time? How did he get from the branch universe to here? I tell you right now that 90% of the people watching the movie didn't care, and I don't care really. I mean, it's like, well, you can come up with your own theories, and that's great. That's fine. Do that. But they're not going to have a 6-episode Captain America series to explain that. or they're not going to spend.
Where has Cap been all this time? Yeah,
they're not going to spend, even if they like. Well, let's acknowledge it in. Well, the way Marvel is, they probably acknowledge it in an episode. It'd be like Sam and Bucky talking. It's like, say, how did Cap get there? I don't know. And they'd play it off as a joke, right? Mm-hmm. So they're not going to take like 2 hours of an episode or even 5 minutes of an episode to try to explain it. Because like I said, explanation is going to make it worse. And for 90% of the audience, they're going to be like, what the hell are they talking about? Why are they spending time on this?
Just think about that scene, though, because from the time that Cap, and we can get off this subject in a second, but from the time that Cap leaves, Bucky's standing there, Sam is standing there, and Hulk is like, he's not coming back, time travel or whatever. From that moment, there's a huge ripple effect, right? Because Cap never comes back. So the entire history up to that point is changed because he's not there, right?
No, he was there originally.
But was he?
Yeah.
Okay, because he goes back in time and stays with Peggy back in the past, so he never came back.
Right.
So that's the whole problem with time travel, right? So he never was Captain America from the 40s on. So in Bucky and
no, he did, because he went back in time. So one of two things happened: either it did create a branch, either he's with Peggy in a branch universe, or
that's right.
Or for a while, there's two Caps. There's the one who came back, and there's the one who went back in time from the present day.
So you're thinking,
it doesn't negate anything he did before, because he's still like in my mind, the way it happened is there isn't. I don't like the branch universe thing. So Cap went back in time, so he's with Peggy, but at the same time, him coming out of the ice and doing all the stuff he did still happens. So there's two Caps for a while.
So he lays low with Peggy the entire time and never does anything.
I think he could be. I think that's to me that's a great story, because he could be like Noban and some kind of like secret concealed agent for S.H.I.E.L.D. or something like that. So
yeah, but everyone knows Steve Rogers, man. It's like, oh, maybe they don't.
Yeah, so
it's the 40s, so maybe they don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
So I'm just saying that.
But then how did he know? How did he know those guys were there, and how do you know where that bench was, and how do you whatever. And the other thing that doesn't help, when the directors
it doesn't matter though, right?
It doesn't matter. So. The directors say one thing and the writers say something else, and I don't know. Whatever. You're talking about a time heist, right?
Well, and then they're trying.
It's like Back to the Future is total bullshit. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, and here's the thing: they get pressed in interviews to answer it, so the writers are going to say, "Oh, well, here's what we think happened," and they're actually, here's what we think. It's like, oh, they can't even agree on it. So how do we control? What do you mean? How can you trust anything? It's a fucking story. It's just a story. It doesn't matter. The mechanics about it doesn't matter.
The answer to that question is, what do you think happened?
I would just like whatever you think happened. That's how it happened. They're not gonna ever explain it. They're not gonna take time anywhere to explain it, because at this point, like I said, anybody watching a Captain America movie in the future or a series is going to be like, "What bench? What the fuck are they talking about? Why are they spending time on this? I want to get on with the story."
Well, now there's a new Cap, Sam Wilson, right? So it doesn't matter.
And the 5% of the audience that does care about it be like, "Well, that's not what I thought happened. So that's not what they led me to believe. So they lied to me."
I'm never going to watch this Marvel movies again. I'm leaving.
Right.
Like, okay.
So don't explain the stuff. Just like be like, whatever you think happened. You figure. You think about it.
I think that the explanations can be dangerous. You're right. It's like you try to over-explain something and overcorrect something that's not as big a deal. I'd like it to be, the continuity to be perfect, or at least make sense. And for the most part, that's what I was saying originally. They do a pretty good job. I mean, Star Wars did a pretty good job too, for the most part, keeping it all together. And Marvel has done, I think, a really good job kind of intertwining all these stories and making them make sense. Because that's a lot of stuff to keep together. And so the fact that we're talking about these few examples means there only are kind of a few examples, really. I mean, you could also make the case, like another thing that I was curious about was, how do you return the Soul Stone? Right?
Because someone had to free Black Widow?
Yeah, exactly. Someone had to die for that. So if you go back in time before she died, isn't she alive? So
exactly.
It can't be changed.
They totally could bring Black Widow back that way, right?
Right. And it's comics, they do that all the time. Although I think Scarlett Johansson's done with Marvel, so
they could have a scene in a movie where she just like suddenly shows up and she's like, "Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. I thought I died, and then I was alive on this planet, and it's taken me all this time to get my way back to Earth or whatever."
There's this guy with a red mask. It looked like I don't know what's going on. It's really weird.
Yeah. So
what's up? What did I miss?
Even Tony Stark can come back. I don't think he will, because I think Robert Downey Jr. is done too, and I think you're right. Scarlett Johansson's kind of done. It sounds like she's going to be producing or maybe directing some stuff for Marvel, but I think she's done.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be hard to be in that kind of shape all the time. It's like at some point, I want to just drink beer and chill.
Exactly.
I don't want to have to deal with this shit anymore.
They gave us, I'm okay with that too. They gave us plenty of great stories and all that. And if they want to be done, that's fine.
Well, they've got Yelena to take over the mantle. Right. Oh, by the way, speaking of. And this is total non sequitur, kind of. But speaking of Yelena, speaking of Florence Pugh, I would say Frances Pugh, but I always say that. It's wrong. Florence Pugh.
I know.
Being considered apparently for the princess in Dune.
Irulan.
Yeah. And that's that was one of my picks. So there you go.
Well, and that's so that leads into the writer of the screenplays has been saying, maybe there's going to be a third movie that will cover Dune Messiah. Because it sounds like Villeneuve, Denny is hot to make a trilogy. So that would kind of make sense if they cast her in that role, because I believe she has a bigger role in Dune Messiah. So
yes,
so that I'm totally on board and absolutely on board for them doing this as a trilogy. So
they could bring Momoa back, right? So
absolutely, because he comes back in Messiah.
Spoilers. Sorry, don't mention it. But I'm fine with that, and they got to find someone to play. Who's going to play Sting's part? That's what I want to know. But
I thought there was someone they were talking about recently that they were in talks with, and I don't remember now. But
I don't know. But Fade role.
Not Sting. No. Yeah.
Although he could probably still do it. He still looks pretty good. So
yeah, he could.
You saw him in Only Murders in the Building, right? He was good. He looked good.
And he was great in that, especially playing kind of a jerk.
You think I did it? Well, he might be a jerk in real life. Who knows? But he's not a murderer, probably. So,
well, probably
that we know of. Although he did murder a few songs that I've heard over the years. But
so Austin Butler, who's starring in
he's playing Elvis. I did hear that, but I don't know.
He's in talks to play Fade. So
I mean, he'll probably be fine. I don't really know his work very much, but the Elvis movie looks interesting. I mean, it's Baz Luhrmann doing Elvis, so how
exactly
it's gonna be fantastic no matter what. So
yeah, and for this first Dune movie, they picked pretty great people for the role, so I trust they're gonna pick the right people for their interpretation.
It's got to be
the characters.
It's got to be someone who can because Batista is very intimidating, and that's the character too. But it's got to be someone who is also extremely intimidating, but in a totally different way, because Fade is extremely dangerous, but not physically imposing, right? So he's just like a sword. Right. He's a really good fighter, and he's a really good manipulator and a ladies' man or whatever. So it's good to be the Baron's nephew. So anyway, that'll be cool. So let's talk about Strange New Worlds. Are we done with Obi-Wan? We're done with Obi-Wan, right?
I think we.
From a certain point of view, we are done with Obi-Wan. I'm sure we will revisit. We will revisit Obi-Wan.
We will revisit other points of view
frequently. But yeah, so Anson Mount as Captain Pike. I'm very happy to get this show, which is funny because I will never be upset with more Star Trek, but I'm like, another Star Wars show. So
yeah, exactly.
And I wonder if that's because I was originally exposed to Star Trek as a TV show, and I was originally exposed to Star Wars as an epic spectacle movie or whatever. So it's I feel Star Wars is a movie experience, and I feel like Star Trek is on the small screen. So I don't mind more Star Trek series.
Maybe that is it. That Star Wars.
I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Needs to be a theatrical spectacle as opposed to a show. Although Mandalorian was pretty great. Boba Fett less so, but I'm excited about some of the other Star Wars shows. But
sure, well, Mandalorian was original, also original-ish. And this is basically we're going to go back to a prequel from the original Star Trek show with Kirk and Spock, and we're also going to have Spock in the show. And these are characters you've actually seen in the original series of Star Trek, played by different people. It's not Jeffrey Hunter. I don't know if he's alive anymore.
He is not, sadly.
Or Majel Barrett. She's not going to be in this because she's not alive anymore. And it's not.
In fact, the last surviving person from the original Star Trek pilot, Ensign Colt, just recently died. So everyone that was in the original pilot is no longer alive.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah.
Thanks for bringing the room down, Joe.
I know.
Just kidding. But yeah, I mean, I loved. My first experience with Star Trek was OG Star Trek, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Scotty, Sulu, everybody, all those people. And I love that show, and I will always love it. But I feel like this is sort of hitting the nostalgia bone a little bit for me. And I love Anson Mount. I think he's a great actor, and everyone in this seems really good. And I'm looking forward to it. And he looks great, and the show looks really good too. I feel like they're spending some money on it, which is nice. So.
Yeah.
And it was cool to hear that sort of Star Trek or OG theme a little bit too.
Yeah. And I know people kind of use the barometer as like, oh, is this is this movie or is this show or whatever it is this something that anyone was really asking for? And actually in this case, I have been asking for something like this for ever since I've been a Star Trek fan and saw the Menagerie for the first time. Right. It was a while before I saw the original pilot because it wasn't available for a long time. But I've always been kind of fascinated and wanting to know more about Pike and about not just him, but his Enterprise and the characters that we saw in that pilot. And for the most part, we'll kind of get to see that here, which is interesting. And so I'm like, I'm totally on board. I mean, it was a treat having him as the captain on the second season of Discovery. Much like Years, I'm having a hard time keeping seasons separate on shows. But and that was thrilling, and seeing young Spock and getting a taste of what number one was like at the time. So when they announced,
you just get a taste of number one. Wow.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Getting an idea of what number
Mrs.
one was
Roddenberry.
Like.
What are you doing?
Yeah, maybe we should cut that out.
Yeah,
So, at the time, I was like, they should totally make Anson Mount is amazing. And if you cast someone in that role, and even Ethan Peck, Gregory Peck's grandson, and Rebecca Romaine, even, it's like, if you're going to cast that dynamic acting-wise, you should continue that story somehow. So I bet from the initial reaction, they're like, yeah, we got to make a series. And it was just a while to negotiate it. And they always intended to. But when they announced it, I'm like, I'm totally on board because that's an era, that's an Enterprise crew that I really want to know more about and see the adventures of. So, in this case, yes, I was asking for it.
Me too. Yeah, you get Pike in the Kelvin universe too.
Yes,
and what happens to him is kind of what happens to him in the original series. And I assume, and there was this flashback, I believe, from Disco where Pike sees himself like that at some point.
Yes. But he gets a flash forward to see his death.
Right. So, but that happens, a long time from now. My question though, because Nurse Chapel is in this show, and so is Uhura apparently. So will we see other OG characters like Bones or Scotty or Kirk even? And who would play a young Kirk is my second question. But first question, you think we'll see those people? Maybe not in the first season, but maybe in subsequent seasons, because that'd be kind of cool.
If we do, I hope that there's a story reason, like, they have to help out another ship, and it happens to be like the Farragut that Kirk is on as an ensign or something like that. I hope it's not like, oh, and here's Ensign Kirk, just showing up for no reason. And they seem to be pretty smart in their writing, so I don't think they'll do that.
He could just be at the Academy. It could just be a throwaway thing. It doesn't have to be. Yeah. Or there's just like some random dude looking at the Enterprise through a window. He's like someday, man, or something. I don't know. There's just some kind of thing. I don't think he'll feature prominently because I don't know that Spock and Kirk ever knew each other before. I don't. Did they ever establish?
Well,
I'm trying to remember if they ever established how Kirk ended up getting command of the Enterprise and how. Well, obviously,
I think there's like several versions depending on like what books and comics you read, but nothing like canon wise.
Well, obviously, Pike gets injured, obviously, and so
I mean, the final season of Strange New Worlds could be Kirk is now a member of the crew, and is, basically treated as a handoff season, right? So, two-thirds of the way through the season is when Pike gets, injured and Kirk's got to take over. I don't know. Maybe that would be a disservice to Anson Mount, but
it would be.
I mean, that could be, I don't know. We'll see. I'm assuming that the show's going to last for a while because Star Trek series seem to be pretty popular right now. And
well, we don't know how long. I mean, I'm trying to remember from Menagerie and from The Cage how long Pike was captain of the Enterprise. I mean, he was captain for a while, so they could have had. I mean, this was back when the 5-year mission thing was a thing. So I'm assuming that they have at least 5 years with Pike and the Enterprise.
I think he did a few 5-year missions because I mean, he was obviously when they did The Cage, he was very well established as the captain already. And this is like, I think at this point, Strange New Worlds is like 7 or 8 years before the first season of the original series. So
obviously Pike has gone through some shit, and he's like, he's like dealing with some loss or whatever, and then so they have to bring him back for one more mission, and he meets the Enterprise and falls in love with it, and goes out there and explores Strange New Worlds, and so
seeks out new life and civilization.
Exactly. But I bet they'll change it to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Well, it's been that way on every show since.
Yeah.
Which, if you're ready to segue, I did like that they kind of did a new take on that anthem in Picard.
They did.
Not fully, but they had, conquer, new worlds, subjugate civilization,
that was
that
pretty
kind
cool.
of thing. Yeah.
So. That was totalitarian Picard. That's what I enjoy. I think we could talk about Picard for a minute, and then we can go to picks. But I could not be happier. I'm just happy for
more Trek.
For more Trek. Yeah, it's fine. And I'm enjoying Discovery, and I'm enjoying. A lot of people talk shit about Discovery, as we've talked about before.
I like it a lot. I think
I'm enjoying this season, and I'm kind of disappointed that Tarka's turning out to be the kind of person I thought he was, but not really. I was, can he just be a good guy? It's almost irredeemable at this point, but not 100%, because there has to be tension, and I'm sure that spoiler, I'm sure that Michael's not going to blow up Book ship. It's like, fuck it, we'll just kill everybody. It's probably not going to happen because she's not the let's kill everybody type. But
no, I have a feeling at this point, if it's going to be Tarka, if Tarka's going to be doing the right thing, it's going to result in him making the big sacrifice or something. Because there's no way. I don't see a way from where he's at now to our hopeful series of Book and Tarka exploring the galaxy, because he's burned all his bridges at this point.
Well, yeah, like he says, you were my only. I only had 2 friends, and you were one of them. You were one of them, but now fuck you.
Yeah. So
that guy's damaged. The thing is, will they? Because Star Trek likes a redemption story, so will they save him in some way and figure out a way to redeem him? Because if you think about it, Michael wasn't exactly perfect even at the beginning, and she's managed to redeem herself and become a captain. And so will Tarka have a redemption
She's
arc?
Such a different character than she was the first season, which is great. I mean, she's growth-wise.
She's definitely evolved, but they've definitely retooled her character a little bit too.
But maybe they do redeem Tarka somehow, but maybe it's him making the big sacrifice play. I don't know.
Well, I don't feel like he's the sacrifice type, honestly. I feel like he's more like he'll be dragged kicking and screaming to justice.
Or he'll disappear because he's fixed his transporter, and then they have to clean up everything and prevent.
Well, that's possible, which means he could come back again. I think he'd be a good villain, maybe, because it's nice to have intelligent villains. I don't know. I'm kind of feeling like Book might have his days might be numbered, especially, which was an interesting story that he told about how he's not Cleveland Booker. He's just like the Cleveland Booker the Fifth. So what's his real name? What's his real story, right? It's like
Dread Pirate
Roberts. Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah.
So who are you really? Yeah. So I thought that was kind of an interesting reveal, kind of almost a throwaway in a way. It's like, what?
Maybe he makes the big play and he leaves the name to Jet Reno and she becomes Cleveland Book. Yeah, because they cannot kill her off with Book. That would be bad.
No, and
I would be mad.
I don't know that she's going to stay on the show forever, but I think she's awesome. So I hope she does. But I can't imagine that they can keep her on the show forever. But because
they can.
I mean, maybe they can, but why not? Okay, so did you want to talk about Picard a bit?
Well, maybe we should save that because
I like the direction it's going, and I like the show.
I do
obviously.
too.
This episode felt, to me at least, and I hate to say this because I love Patrick Stewart, but Patrick Stewart is getting up there, and so I just can't help but worry about him now in every episode. Like, is he going to be okay? Because he's leaning on stuff. He's like, you're okay, John?
Well, they already filmed the next season, so I think he's going to be okay.
Okay, well, obviously he's going to survive, but
yeah,
it's nice to see. It's nice to see all the main characters get together.
I think this maybe why I'm reluctant to talk about it right away is it still feels like set up for the story they want to tell for the season.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of questions, well, obviously. So
they got to get going. They finally got everybody where they want them, including the Borg Queen. So
yes.
Now it's like, now we can get going. You're right. Well, yeah, it was set up, and now they're going to be pursued by these other guys. And I'm not sure why Seven would pick that dude as a husband. That was weird, but. Anyway.
Well, so speaking of him, though, I found it interesting that the actor who plays the first magistrate, John Briones, is the father of Issa Briones, who plays Soji.
Yeah.
So her dad gets to be on the show, and we got a nice voice cameo from Patton Oswalt, which was really fun.
Yeah, as the cat, which I thought was funny.
That was pretty great. Meow.
Yeah, he was funny. Yeah, that was a good scene.
Yeah.
She's getting a lot of good character moments, which I appreciate because Alison Pillow is great.
Yes,
and she's doing. But we didn't see Soji in this episode. I wonder how they're gonna loop her back in because they have what's his face back. So
we didn't see Laris either, and Orla Brady is in the main opening credits too. So it's kind of
Well, I'm sure. So. Well, she's dead in this timeline, right? Oh, but they have to they have to go back to Los Angeles now. I guess I'm a cynic, and part of me is like, oh, they removed the implants, they did all this stuff, they changed everybody to look more normal, quote unquote, so they can go back,
so they can come to the present
and save money too by shooting.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know, that's just a terrible thing to say, but it's it's a practical consideration. So anyway, I'm down. I'll watch the show, obviously. So
yeah. But
so
we'll talk more about it.
I'm just worried about Patrick Stewart all the time now. I can't help it.
He's fine. They've made another season
right now. He's fine, but. Anyway, and it's like when they're filming, they were filming Strange New Worlds in the height of the pandemic. So a lot of the things I read or heard about, it's like they can't even have everybody on the bridge or anything. Hardly. That's the only time they could be together.
Right.
And then the rest of the time they all got to be isolated and do all this stuff. It's like, man, that must have been tough to do a show about people being together when you can't actually be together. It's got to be tough.
Well, you can do good camera angles to and cuts,
Yeah, but I guess if you're doing a sci-fi show, you're used to acting in front of a green screen and pretending that everything's there. But they also have that virtual wall thing, I'm sure, which I think is interesting. They always find a way on Discovery to get to the virtual wall section, right?
Yeah, they do.
let's go to the shuttle deck where the the shuttles are. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, hey, you know what? If you got a toy, you want to use it, right? So.
Absolutely, and it looks nice, so why not?
It does look nice, and that's actually happening in real time, right? So that's pretty cool. So the lighting,
so they get to see what they're actually supposed to see, as opposed to reacting to nothing. So.
Right? Yeah, and the lighting coming from it is actually on their faces, and it's all like it's real, which is pretty cool. It really only helps the DP, honestly. It's like, this is great for me. I don't have to do as much. So
exactly. I can still collect my check.
Oh no, I'm sure they're not really like that. But I feel like if you're doing a Star Trek show, there's probably a lot of people lined up to want that job, so you get your pick of crew and stuff. It's not like you're scraping the bottom of the barrel to do that kind of thing. So I mean, people want to make money and get paid, obviously, but DPs get paid okay. So
they do all right
for the most part. So okay, well let's go to picks. What's your pick?
My pick, I'm going to pick a book that I just got. Excuse me. So it's a book I just got, and I haven't been able to totally pour through it, but I'm fascinated and obsessed by it. And it's actually a expanded version of something that I've always wanted. It is the Moonbase Alpha Technical Operations Manual. And this is published by Anderson Entertainment, which is the official Jerry Anderson company, and it is now an expanded version of the original Moonbase Alpha Technical Operations Manual, which I think was kind of done in a binder and all that, and was done back in the 70s, or right around the time of the show. So it was very much like the original Star Trek technical manual was pretty basic and stuff. This thing is just outstanding. It's kind of a coffee table style book, hardback, and it pores over every single detail under the microscope, even, of all aspects of Space 1999. And it's done as like an inter-universe technical manual. Like if you were part of Moonbase Alpha, it's like, here's what you get for training, kid. And it just goes over everything. Huge photographs, photographs of all the details. It goes through like uniforms, all the ships, including the Eagles, and ones that were, even seen just in the background. And it gives you all the specs and details on it. It shows you schematics of the inside of Moonbase Alpha. Goes over all the aliens they've encountered in text, and it even says, updated post breakaway day. So it's it's got stuff from the second season that wasn't in the original one. So it's just, as a Space 1999 geek since I was a kid, this is like the best thing ever. So it is amazing, and you can get it from the Anderson website, but I suggest, and this was a suggestion from email from their mail newsletter, that you get it through Amazon. They have a Jerry Anderson store on Amazon, so shipping is basically free if you have Prime. So it's not a cheap book, but it's certainly not cheap on the inside as well. So it's a very lavish and lovely book. So
that's cool. That's cool. As also a Space 1999 nerd as you are, I think that's great. Yeah, I saw that, and I was going to buy one. I have the original somewhere.
Oh, lucky. I always wanted that and could never find it anywhere.
I have it somewhere. I think it's probably in the guest room with a bunch of other books, but I definitely have the Star Trek technical manual too, which you say it's funny because that one, the Starfleet original one, is basically, like you said, it's like a manual for if you were a Starfleet cadet to familiarize yourself with Star Trek. Yeah. But yeah, that's a pretty kind of prized possession of mine because it's signed by Franz Joseph, the guy who did all the artwork and everything, wrote the book, and also by Roddenberry too. So that was pretty exciting. But
nice.
I waited in line. I waited in line for like 2.5 hours to get Roddenberry to sign it. So
I do have the Space 1999 blueprints. I did get those over the years, and I got the Star Trek blueprints before I got the technical manual. But when I was a kid, it was like $80 or something because it went out of print pretty quick, and it wasn't reprinted for a number of years. So there was a number of years where I was like looking for it, and anytime I could find it, it was like way more money than I could spend. Sure. And there was a time where finally for like Christmas one year, my mother found it and bought it for me, and it was just like, I don't know, it was a holy grail thing. Yeah, and so this Moonbase Alpha technical manual has been kind of like one of my last remaining holy grails. So I don't have the original, but getting this one is just
that one looks really cool.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, I really wanted to get it. I saw Jerry Anderson's Twitter feed a while back, and I was like, I need to get that. And it kind of I kind of forgot about it. I'm sure, but I will definitely pick it up now. But the other one was it was one of the situations where I loved the show, and my mom was cool about that kind of stuff, and so we just went to the bookstore and probably Crown Books back in the day and found one, or maybe it's B. Dalton. I don't even remember, but we found one and we got it. But yeah, I still got all that stuff, which is fun.
Time Machine 2 in Gainesville, Florida, that no longer exists, is a comic book store that I finally got one. Because they basically were, anytime I went in there to get my weekly comics, I'm like asking them to find a copy of it. And I think they finally took me seriously, but it took forever. Yeah. And they finally got one. And I think it was sort of beat up. It was definitely used. And I think they were like, we'll sell it to you for like $50. And my mom bought it for me. And I was just like, this is like the best thing ever.
Yeah, $50 was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I mean, it's a lot of money now, but I guess I feel like it's more. It was more back then.
But then, like 3 years later, they finally did a second reprinted of it because there's such a demand. But it's still, they didn't print it. It was printed differently. Like the cover was that black cover, and it made it look like a manual. And I don't think the reprints were ever done the same way. So,
well, it wasn't. I mean, if you think about it, Space 1999 was only a show that lasted 2 seasons, right? It wasn't exactly a blockbuster hit. But it was with nerds.
Yes.
Especially the Eagle, which is still a great ship. I think it's one of the best, practical kind of ships that you could possibly want. I mean, it still makes sense.
I will be
now.
3D printing one of those. I started, and the quality of printer I had wasn't quite.
But now you got the new printer, so you're ready to rock.
Yeah. I'm going to be printing out a huge Eagle.
That is awesome. So. Yeah, I still have my die-cast Eagle from back in the day.
Oh, man, yes.
Well, I love that show. I thought it was a great show. And I originally also had an Eagle, like a big plastic one that made noise, too, that shot like missiles and shit.
Oh, I had the toy one that came with little figures, and you could detach like all the pieces of it, which was awesome.
Yeah, that payload thing you could detach.
Yeah.
I always thought Nick or whatever was his name. Nick, the guy who flew the Eagle. I thought he was the coolest guy.
Alan.
Yes. That's right. Yeah, Nick. Alan.
Nick Tate played.
That's what. Okay, Alan. Yeah. And Alan survived both seasons. Good for him.
He did. Yes.
Don't get me started on where Tony was the entire first season, but that's fine.
Or Paul in the second season.
Or Paul. Yeah. Oh yeah, good old Paul with his mustache. That's right.
Yeah.
Or Professor Bergman. Where did he go? Anyway.
Paul, who was played by an actor with like one of the greatest names ever, Prentice Hancock.
Prentice Hancock, yeah.
Whom I'm friends with on Facebook, by the way.
He's still around. That's awesome, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
sorry, we can nerd out about Space 1999, yeah. But we'll do that later. My pick actually is also a book this week. Well, actually, it's 3 books, but it's in a series. I've been getting back into art, and I've been doing a lot of sketching and drawing and stuff, which I used to do a lot of. I'm going to start doing watercolor again, etc. Anyway, nice. my pick is books about what's called urban sketching. So one of them is, they're all part of the Urban Sketching Handbook series. The first one is Techniques for Beginners, and then there's 101 Sketching Tips, and then there's Understanding Perspective. So the first one is written by Suhita Shirodkar. I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, and I apologize. And then Stephanie Bauer wrote the other 2. Let me try it again. Suhita Shirodkar. That's probably closer. I'm terrible with names. I totally apologize.
Me too. I'm horrible. I always mispronounce.
But the content in these books is excellent. So this is the Techniques for Beginners book. It basically says here's some things you can use, and here's what urban sketching means. It basically means you go out and draw buildings or neighborhoods or whatever you feel like sketching. Some people do landscapes, some people do whatever. But there's whole groups around the world that get together. There's a group here in Austin. They get together, they go wherever, and they draw, which I think is great. And it's surprisingly mostly adults, and mostly like older adults even.
Nice.
So it's super fun. But if you want to know anything about urban sketching or anything about the techniques or art in general, like blending colors, like the color theory and everything, these books are really good. They're very illustrated, and they're kind of like sketchbook size, smaller size, so you can read them. And they give you an idea of, a few of the things you need, like pencils and this, whatever you're going to do. Little tiny watercolor palettes you can take with you and do this all on location. And I just like the idea of being outside and doing the thing. I mean, I take pictures still and do photography, but this is just another outlet of creativity. And it's also something I can do at home. I have my little arts, desk part set up here. So anyway, these are really great books. They're not super cheap. Like the first book, I think is like, let me look at the back. It's, it's $18, but I mean, whatever. I'm sure your Space 1999 book was what, $50 at least, something like that.
Yeah.
So, but they're really high quality books. I mean, you can get them on Kindle too, I guess. You can get PDFs of these or Kindle versions, but I like the hard, the
oh yeah. There's some things you just got to have the physical.
Well, if you're reading about something that's a physical thing, I kind of feel like, I want to read the physical piece also, sort of, there's something tactile. Like the thing that's fun is like all these like exercises about art and stuff, like draw a bunch of circles and draw this. And I'm trying to draw my hand just by looking at my hand and not looking at the paper. All these things I used to do in like an art class back in the day, but I'd forgotten most of it. So it's just fun to, to have more creative outlets. Not like I don't have a lot of fun things I already do, but anyway, so yeah, Urban Sketching Handbook series, urbansketching.org, I think it is, where you can, look up a group in your town and go out and draw some stuff and have fun. So it's just another way to have fun. Why not, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Why not have some fun?
Why not?
Why not? So find the Flickcast at all the podcast places, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, et cetera, If you want to rate and review the show, we'd really appreciate it. Reviews and ratings especially are helpful and useful. And thank you to the people who've been rating the show. I noticed that there's some ratings on Apple, and I really appreciate that. And Joe and I both appreciate that, I should say.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
And they've been good ratings, too, so that's even better. And if you really love the show, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/TheFlickcast. And you can find us at the Whiskey and Waffles Discord collaboration that we're doing. But all these links and everything you can find on our link tree, which is linktr.ee/TheFlickcast, which you can find, that'll tell you everything. But if you find the Flickcast on Twitter, it also has that link there for everything. And Joe's on the socials at What Joe Writes, and I'm there at Chris Yu, and also on Instagram at Ulrich Picks. And so that's all. That's where you can find us.
I think that's it. Yep.
Joe needs to go, apparently. He's got to go. He's probably got to pee. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway. All right. So for Joe Dilworth, I'm Chris Ulrich. That was the Flickcast. Thanks so much for listening.